my initial impression is that you see the national landscape is a bit challenging and complex. You need a bit of time to understand it, to acclimatize to it, and to engage and build solid relationships with the rest of the provinces. I feel for my own leadership. They were elected in July. Both the chair and the secretary have not been part of the National Executive Committee, let alone that.
What's going on, free riders? Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. How are you doing? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. I want to take this moment and wish you a Merry Christmas. And I want to wish you a Happy New Year. Listen, free riders, I just want to say a special shout out and thank you to those of you who've subscribed to our channel, to those of you who followed us on TikTok, followed us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Let me tell you, the last 7 months have been absolutely nothing but a learning experience, and I've enjoyed every moment of it, okay? I've enjoyed every single moment of it. Big ups and thank you to all my guests who've joined me in 2022. And of course, I'm talking about guests that really, believed in what I was trying to do, believed in me, believed in the vision of what I was trying to create with the Free Ride podcast. And of course, knowing very well that I am in the pool of so many great podcasters that we're seeing all over the country. Shout out to all the online creatives and of course, online, content creators. We've seen so many come into the game this year. We've seen so many podcasters coming into the game this year. And of course, celebrities. Just to mention a few, El Tito brought out a podcast. Dales brought out a podcast. And Tsiki Mazwai brought out a podcast. We saw also Ngulek on Culture bringing out his podcast, moving from the Diski channel into a podcast. We saw also Penuel bringing out a podcast. And of course, there's a podcast in Durban. There's a podcast in Limpopo, and of course, there's a few others that have just been coming out. So shout out to all the podcasters, and of course, not that we are competing, but we should be complementing one another. Just like you've got other radio stations, you've got just over, I think, 600 or 700. Radio stations, and this includes community radio, regional radio stations, and commercial radio stations. So we too, as podcasters, need to be able to find ways to collaborate and also to find a way to work together. And shout out to you guys for really holding the flag up. Also shout out to the artists that have joined me on the show. Shout out to Gerald, shout out to Nota, shout out to so many people that have joined me on the Free Ride podcast. And of course, shout out to Figo, shout out to Seed for helping me out, shout out to Main Guy for doing all the graphics on the platform, and of course, Figo for the music beats that is created for me. Please do make sure that you follow Figo Centric on social media, Seed Under on social media, and of course, our Main Guy, or Fumulani Nedididi, one of the best graphic designers we have in the country. So All right, so that formality is out of the way. I'm doing this because this might just be my last show for the year, unless something happens. But I need to take time off and just focus on the family for a few days and just do a couple of things around the house and take my family out for some few moments and just take time out, with family and enjoy ourselves over this festive season. My wife's on holiday, so we got to just do the family thing. So I'm excited about that. So what has happened this year or the last week has been absolutely amazing because one, as a free ride podcast, it's been recognized for the work that we do here. And I was then asked and tasked by Starsat to join them, to assist them to cover the ANC 55th National Conference. And of course, I was there for about 5 days. I went there to collect my accreditation on a Thursday. In fact, I was doing the media build-up. You would have seen in some of the shows I've done, the build-up to the ANC conference. And of course, did a couple of interviews there. Just to mention some of the leaders of the African National Congress that I spoke to, Zimasa, Vabasa. Okay, I didn't speak to him, but he's a social media content creator. He's big on TikTok. Got to meet him and had a bit of an exchange with him. Great guy. And check him out on social media. But I spoke to COSA's national spokesperson, Douglas Ngobeni Marupene Ramokgopa, who is now the second deputy secretary of the ANC. I spoke to Tony Yengeni. I spoke to Derek Hanekom. I spoke to Fasia Hassan, who is the ANC MP in the province of Gauteng. And of course, Tony Yengeni is a former NEC member. Derek Hanekom is a former NEC member. And also spoke to Leungo Muloto. Leungo Muloko, who is a podcaster. Yeah, he's a podcaster, a young man who was coming to the conference to do photography for a newspaper on his first day, on his first job, on his first big gig covering the ANC conference. I got to speak to him about his show, the Wali Barali Show. It's one of the growing podcasts on TikTok, on social media, on YouTube, and so on. Also had a chat to Sipombele, who is the convener for the PBF, and of course the PBF was busy with a whole lot of things, and of course I'm talking about the dinner before the conference, the presidential dinner. They did the business breakfasts, so I got to speak to him. All of these shows and interviews are not going to be on this platform because I did them for Starsat, of course, in collaboration with the Free Ride podcast, but it's going to be on Starsat. Also got to speak to Azwi Hangwi Maumela. Very interesting guy, Bishop Maumela from Limpopo. We had a bit of a heated exchange around whether load shedding exists, and he said no, it's sabotage, and of course he was on a very big defensive mode, and but I got to speak to him. Siabonga Kumalo from the ANC Youth League. He's a deputy chairperson from Mbuso Kubega region. He's a branch delegate. He got to speak to me, and of course I needed to know what was going on with the ANC KZN delegation. And of course, he broke it down for me. Got to speak to the president of COSATU, the general secretary of the SACP, Soli Mapaila. Got to speak to me also on the Free Ride podcast, broadcasting on Starsat, and of course on a channel called C12. Also got to speak to Sihle Zigalala, not the Sihle Zigalala from Pumalanga, but Sihle Zigalala is a member of Pumalanga. He's a branch delegate. He's a provincial treasurer. I think he's also an MP. And then I got to speak to Stella Ndabeni Abrahams, who's from the Eastern Cape delegation. She's a member of parliament. She's a minister of small business. Got to speak to her as well. I spoke to the chairperson of Gauteng, who is Panyaza Lisufi, who joined me on the day. Also, a special shout out to Zamani Sao, who's the chairperson and the premier of the Northern Cape, who joined me on the Free Ride podcast. And then, of course, to try and make sense of how the elections, internal elections of the African National went about, I had to speak to the Electoral Committee Secretary. His name is Chief Matsila. He joined me to explain how the nominations for the top 7 went about, the inclusion of course, the amendment to the constitution of the ANC regarding adding an additional position of the second deputy secretary to the top 7 of the ANC. Chief Matsila joined me to break it down, how the nominations went about, how the voting went about, and of course, how the electoral system dealt with the top 80 NEC members. I was joined by COSATU President Zungiswa Losi, who also spoke to me about the challenges being the alliance partner to the African National Congress and their submission with regards to the issues and problems that workers face, either in government or workers in general. Also got to speak to Kwazi Mshengu. He is a PEC member and a delegate from KZN. I was privileged to speak to Gwen Ramokgopa, who is the Treasurer General of the African National Congress, who joined me on the day. So those are some of the interviews that I think I had on the day for the last 4 days. And of course, I truly had a great time speaking to all these leaders of the African National Congress and covering the conference of the African National Congress. And not only that, I was privileged to host and help Soweto TV as well to do to schedule interviews with the guys on the ground at the conference. And of course, on Friday night, I went through to the studios in Rivonia to do a 2-hour broadcast show with a panelist, and got to speak about the conference, just to explain and go through some of the issues with the political analyst who joined me on the day. And then, of course, I was back again on Monday to do another 1-hour broadcast breaking down the last 2 days of the conference. And then my last day was on Tuesday, when the conference of the ANC was then called to come to an end. And of course, I had to go back to Soweto TV to do a 2-hour special to talk to 2 panelists and just engage about the conference, and they broke it down. And that was a week that has been right here on the Free Ride podcast. So to all my people that I could not have on the show, I know so many of them I was supposed to have on the show. I couldn't have them because just my schedule was turned around, and I had to do all of this other stuff. So I'll be back again next year, and I'll be back with a bang. And I pray that God be with you and be with me, be with my family and your family, and that you stay safe, you drive safely on the roads. If you're going home, make sure to wash up, make sure to check the transi, mataira sharp, the lights di sharp, gore koloi servicitswe, ha ona di fine, the traffic fine le di diski e leng hore expirile, because Magata will be out in full swing. And please do not drink and drive, and make sure that you take care of yourself. All right, man. So I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I want to talk about the conference that took place. And of course, I'm going to play you some clips. You can just see what went down. All right, so let's do that. Boom. All right, so the next video we're gonna check out, it's of course it's gonna be a series of videos just to tell you the story. So we're walking in from the media center as well as the media village. We're walking in to go and get the votes and of course the elections for results for the president and the rest of the top 7. So as the media, we're walking into the hall. People are chanting songs, singing songs, and of course celebrating the victory by President Cyril Ramaphosa. You could hear the delegates from Limpopo, some from Eastern Cape, from Gauteng, Northern Cape, and some from Northwest, celebrating, of course, the victory of President Cyril Ramaphosa. You'll see I walk in, I get into the swing of things. I want to sing, but I don't want to sing because, then I'm seen as, a comrade. And of course, I got to see a couple of people, comrades of mine from the region, which was pretty cool. You'll see that I walk in, I take videos, I get to the stage, Gwere Mantashe is behind me, the electoral chair comes in, which is former Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe comes and makes the results, announces the results, and we're sitting there with the media. And of course, I'm giving you feedback as I see it. So that's what went down on my the day that we got the results for the leadership of the African National Congress. And so let me take you through there, man. Let's go. Boom. You can see it, eh? Ogare wingi. Llegamos. Yo. Ao babuze, ao babuze, ao babuze. Ao babuze, ao babuze, ao babuze. Secretary General of the African National Congress, and of course, Fikile Mbalula, the Secretary General of the African National Congress. And so let's hear the Treasurer General, and we're also going to go through a list for the deputies, the deputy secretaries. Gwede Mantashe has made it as chairperson of the African National Congress. Paul Mashatile has made it as deputy president of the African National Congress. The president of the African National Congress, Cyril Ramaphosa, retains his position. Gwede Mantashe retains his position. So it's going mad and crazy up in here, man. All right, so he's got it, man. He's got it. He's got it. Cyril Ramaphosa's got it. Let's see who's going to be the deputy president. It's a tricky one. Let's see.
signal is fucked up again.
Photo choose.
But one of these was saying is that as we build new capacity, and the state must also be involved in building new generation capacity. That's one thing that we should do. But today, now, immediately, the ESCOM executive and board must focus on reconnecting the 22,000 megawatts that are connected but give us no energy. That is where the disaster is.
And no car power ships.
We gave power ships a thumbs up. They were stopped by everybody else except us.
Thank you.
Leader.
Just a quick question. You recently said that ESCOM and Andre de Ruyter is putting the country down. Are you happy with the decision?
No, I didn't say the Ruyter is pulling the country down. I said ESCOM. ESCOM is not equal to Andre de Ruyter. It's an institution. And I'm saying, if you have regular load shedding like we have here, in any country where there's democracy, you are pitting society against the government of the day, and it will collapse.
So how do you feel about Mr. De Ruyter's resignation?
I don't know. I'm not a line minister for him.
Thank you.
Okay. Not yet.
Can I just ask one more question?
Not yet.
One more question for Soweto TV. What's more expensive, car power ship gas or the diesel that we're using?
The diesel is very expensive.
Is it more expensive than car power ship gas?
It's much expensive than any other model.
So why aren't we using car power ship gas? Why do small businesses have to close? Why do our ice cream lollies have to melt?
No, wait. The problem you see, when you have a view, don't pose it as a question. Express it as a view. Car power ship was one of the approved bidders for emergency power supply. Somebody else except the department took them to court, raised all other obstacles. We gave them the license.
So it's not the ANC that is to blame for us not having ice cream lollies.
This thing of ANC, there's ANC, there's government. Government has ministries, and ministries have portfolios. Okay, and you manage that portfolio and execute to the best of your ability.
Yes.
Okay, but in South Africa, nobody talks about any other party. Even people who are in government with us, who go to parliament, they are not. Nobody talks about them. It's the ANC, and that mindset is a formula to decampaign the ANC, and we understand it.
Yes.
The other provinces is also dependent on the history that we have had in the course of the engagement with a number of structures of the ANC. And I'm saying to you, if you look at the current leadership in the country of different provinces, probably KwaZulu-Natal is one of the two, if not the only province that is led by a newly elected secretary, a newly elected chairperson. Clearly, those conferences, we're going to find it very difficult to move around quickly after they are elected and build not just a PR exercise, but really to interact and find a way in which they will build confidence with a lot of structures and provinces in order for the support to be provided for the country.
All right, man. So, yeah, this is how we come to the end of it. You saw the story as I broke it down to you, how I experienced my conference of the ANC, and of course, a watershed conference that we witnessed of the African National Congress. It was truly an honor for me as a Free Ride podcast to be probably the only podcast that was there to broadcast, and of course, broadcasting on television. That was a first for me. And of course, doing my first TV show, that was a first for me. So yeah, man, big ups and thanks to Soweto TV for having full faith and trust in me. And of course, also to Starsat, channel 12 or C12 for giving me an opportunity. So, all right, so I'm out of here. I'm going to take it easy, and you must take it easy too. So we'll be back in a full swing next year, 2023. It's going to be an amazing year. There's the continuation of the conference on the 5th of Jan, and of course, January 8th statement on the 8th of January. So I look forward to the rocky and busy start of the year. And yeah, so, Talwan, sharp, sharp, boom.